those who will be joining us for the first time.
Do you have any idea where it will take place?
Hala, did we receive any?
I think it will be at the UNESCO office.
Okay.
I think the UNESCO colleagues will be sharing an agenda soon with everyone. Basically, the training will be from the 17th to the 20th of November at UNESCO.
Okay.
And we'll try our best to cover everything during these 4 days. It will be a little bit long working days to be able to cover the remaining modules and to do the group activity, etc. But we look forward to seeing everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think in general, as Claude said, it would be great if those who weren't able to join the different introductory sessions to catch up before the workshop. We can definitely send like an alert message on the platform to invite everyone to catch up before the in-person workshop. We always upload the live sessions on the different modules, and there are also the reader and the PowerPoints, etc. So please feel free to consult them before the 17th. Thank you. Over to you, Claude.
Thank you. I think we can start. I don't know if there is anyone else who's going to join, but as usual, we are recording the session. We're going to be uploading the recording on the platform. And thank you again. Sorry, actually, we missed the training on Monday. I was traveling and I wasn't able to facilitate the session. But despite these challenges on both sides, I think we'll try to continue and make sure that we cover at least the theoretical part of the training before a meeting during the workshop, and really going to spend 4 days together doing more practical work and getting to identify areas of improvement in your day-to-day budgeting and implementation activities. Maybe before continuing with Module 3, we could take a few minutes to see whether you have any questions on the previous discussions and the activities related, or even, yes, the reader itself, if you manage to look into the reader. Yeah, feel free to raise any question.
Well, to be honest, I didn't read. So, when we stopped last time, we were more motivated and we were doing all the homeworks and posting them and so on. So I should, from now on, do the same, hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So we understand it's a bit challenging, but as we are moving toward the face-to-face workshop, we should really aim to at least go through the materials so that during those 4 days we can really focus on the practice, meaning that it is expected that all participants have had a look at the first 3 modules, mostly the concept and fundamental materials, including the tools we are referring to, because then we're going to be applying those tools. And we would like also that you spend some time also doing the practice activities, even if it's not easy. So that's the limitation of online learning, doing the practice activities yourself. But what we try to do is provide detailed guiding materials in the reader, so that by reading that and applying that, you can aim to do that. But on the first day, we're going to be sharing the updated agenda of the workshop today. But the first day of the workshop, we're going to come back to module 3. So the entire first day will be on module 3, but really only the practice part of module 3. We won't be coming back to the concept and the theories. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any other question? And thank you very much to Bilal and I think it was Wasim who sent some documents around. We are reviewing those, and hopefully we can refer to them when we meet. We're going to send another email reminding some other documents we would like to have access to. And if those documents actually do not exist, you can just tell us that that's not the case. But we would like to know, for instance, if there is the new chart of account with the national official budget classification. We know that it was being updated, but would like to know whether this has been finished or not, which one are using. I think last time we were told that probably this question should be asked to the Ministry of Finance. So we are going through UNESCO to see whether we can collect those information, etc. So we get back to you. So maybe let's continue. Unless there are questions on the previous units, I'm going to move to Unit 3, which is about moving from. Hi, Bilal. Feel free to share your thoughts. So Unit 1, as you can see, if you remember, it was an introduction to strategic planning and budgeting. Unit 2, we went through Unit 2 quickly, discussing about how to conduct a situation analysis. Situation analysis understood here as the very first step of planning and budgeting, because before going into defining the objectives and costing them, you need to know what are the issues you are trying to address. So situation analysis helps you take stock of the problems. What are the problems? What are the performance? And what are the challenges? And we also discussed the different tools you can use to conduct the situation analysis. You remember we had a quick look at a typical outline of a situation analysis, looking at the national context, regulatory framework, going to education, looking at trends in performance indicators, access, completion, etc. You can extend that analysis to cover special issues such as emergency management and risk management, for instance. And we also had a quick look at some specific tools one can apply when conducting situation analysis, such as the SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, and the threats, which is a matrix we can use just to make sure that you are assessing in a comprehensive way the different aspects to a problem. And today, so in practice, once you've done your situation analysis, so meaning that you have identified the problems, you have tried to understand the root causes of those problems, and then the next step is to try to come up with solutions, which is the objective of this new Unit 3. So Unit 3 actually in a typical planning and budgeting process is to say our education system has several challenges, and these are those challenges, and these are the different factors behind those challenges, so the drivers or determinants. And then based on this situation analysis, we are proposing these policy options to address those challenges. So planning wise, you need also to come to a point where you can outline a set of solutions to address the challenges. And planning wise, then there are techniques and tools to do that. That's what we're going to be seeing. And as usual, really feel free to to come in at any point to raise your any question or any feedback you would like to share. So in the planning jargon, we call it translating policy objectives into programs, because as you've seen from a situation analysis, you end up with lots of issues, and you need a way of summarizing them when it comes to providing solutions. So the typical way of doing that is to organize your solutions in something called priority programs. So for instance, in a typical, we're going to look at specific examples. In the case of Lebanon, for instance, you remember last time we had a look at some key documents like the strategic plan or the multi-year response plan by ECW. These are two key examples of a planning document with cost information. The priority programs in those documents are the main sections, like the main big sections around which all the interventions are going to be organized. So typically, really, I'm insisting on these. It will be difficult to go into the planning and budgeting exercise without having conducted a situation analysis, which is going to be, in other terms, the evidence base from which then you can easily argue that we are proposing to introduce this policy reform or this intervention based on the evidence we have conducted during the situation analysis. That's really, because otherwise anyone can come up with a policy proposal, but only the policy proposal that is grounded into evidence is more likely to be funded and move forward in terms of policy making. Any questions so far?
Hello everyone. I'm sorry I was on the phone. So John, I have a question here. So when a ministry or an entity is preparing a plan, a 5-year plan, so it has to define first the risk. Definitely, we talked about this, but also we have to define or to see what are the policies established or the procedures and tools that are going to be used during this the implementation of this plan. For example, if there is like in this plan, like there is an activity for the provision of goods and equipment and furniture, there should be an fixed asset policy, let's say. The tracking of the assets, the inventory list at the end of the year. This is a policy. Or if you want to because you are going to make the procurement, to do the procurement, you have to find out if the tools are updated and the procedures. If not, if there is no procedures, actually the donors do not give you or provide this entity, like if the assessment is weak. So all the tools and the policies should be established before, or the risk should be identified, and to define what is the mitigation of this risk before or in the time of preparing the plan. This is right?
Yeah, this is right. This is right, with some nuances. I don't have the slides ready to come back to the typical step-by-step framework for planning and implementation. But basically, let me try to sketch it somewhere. Sorry, I'm trying to find. Let me use these empty slides. But the idea is that there are, when we refer to the policy framework, of course, it's a complex definition, because you can have policies guiding planning and implementation. You can also have policy guiding budget issues. But even budget itself, it means many things. You can have budget preparation, budget implementation, budget reporting, and oversight. So it could be useful to see what policy frameworks are talking about and when conducting a policy review, if we can refer to that question as that. For me, for now, we are mostly looking, trying to see if we have a slide on that. Not this one. Sorry. What you mentioned is very important, but really when it comes to budget implementation. And this is going to be the objective of module 4. Module 4 is going to look at budget implementation, but budget implementation, as you mentioned, so you assume that you have done your planning, you have done your costing and budget, and now you have resources to implement. So, and then quickly, of course, you need to be able to know what are the guiding texts, regulatory framework, and related documents when it comes to procurement. Procurement, which can be on different types of activities. Procurement for consultant is different from procurement of other assets, etc. So you need to be able to know what are the guiding texts for that, what are the guiding texts for the different steps of budget implementation, engagement, liquidation, etc. And for me, those specific policy frameworks and guiding documents, we're going to be looking at them when it comes to Module 4 for budget implementation. But here it's mostly the policy framework related to budget, to planning and budget preparation. I don't know if it's clear. I was trying to look at that overall framework, but I can't find any. But probably I think it's more in Module 1 or 2. But if I find it, I will show it to you. Does that respond to your question, Bilal?
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah.
And as you said, in Module 4, we are going to talk about the monitoring and evaluation of the plan. So this will be discussed in Module 4.
So Module 4 is budget implementation. Module 5 is the budget reporting and monitoring. So yeah, typically Module 4 is going to be, as I mentioned, you have your budget allocations. It's now time to implement. So what do you need to implement your budget? And as you mentioned, you need, because budget implementation, of course, it has two parts. It is there is a technical part where the different directorates implementing activities, they go into sub-annual planning. For instance, I'm a head of a teacher training unit. I'm giving an example. The head of teacher training unit, for this year, I need to be able to implement 3 or 4 or 5 teacher training activities in different regions of the country. So I need to draft my annual work plan. I need to draft terms of references to organize those teacher training activities. And then as a technical unit, there is something I need to do, but at some point, other units of the ministry will have to come in. So this is the financial departments, which will need to cost the activity and eventually help you procure whatever you need to procure, if it's renting services, etc. So when it comes to implementation, there is a technical side, like an administrative part of it, and then there is another one, financial and budget related. And that's where, of course, there are different people involved and there are different guidelines, depending whether it's an administrative task or whether it's a financial and budget activity. So, and part of it is directly managed by the Ministry of Finance, because they are the ones who have mandate on the financial and budget issues. So your question is very valid. Knowing which text, which guidelines apply to each of these steps is very important, because one of the reasons we have under execution in several ministries of education I could share more with you when we meet. We have conducted researches on that topic. One of the reasons we have, at the end of a fiscal year, we have in many cases under execution. So you were given a budget at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year, you have not implemented fully your budget. One of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the reasons is that technical teams within the ministry, they are not aware of the different steps they need to go through to implement an activity. And sometimes you get delayed really a lot by not doing the right thing. For instance, I need to draft you terms of references with a certain number of details to facilitate the financial team to cost it and help implement it. And because I did not draft well my terms of references, which is also some sort of a planning, I need to argue why, I need to set the activities and eventually indicate the different nature of activities. That's why knowing the budgeted nomenclature is useful, the budget classification, because it will have to be converted into a budget at some point by budget officers. And then you can lose a lot of time without knowing what are the regulations, what do I need to do. So we're going to spend some time discussing that. That's actually why we are trying to have access to the national guidelines, because again, as you mentioned, Bilal, you need to know what are the expected procedures for every single step. Otherwise, you get blocked. If it's not within MEHE, you get blocked when it goes to the Ministry of Finance for processing. Any other question?
No, thank you. It's clear.
So here, at least in this module, we are really still at the stage where I am planning and preparing for the budget. Kind of, I'm designing the plan. I'm saying that for next year or the next 3 to 5 years, depending on the horizon you are planning for, this is what, for instance, MEHE is planning to do, because we have conducted an assessment and we came to a point where these are the challenges we need to address. And now, how do we design the solutions to those challenges? So this is Unit 3. Unit 4 of this module is then going to see, once you have then outlined your policy objectives and kind of in a structured way, how do you cost them in a way that this is going to be the cost of our 5-year plan or 3-year plan? And then module 4 will come then into, then how do you make sure that you have everything in place to implement that? So what is important to note here is that planning wise, there are several ways of doing the plan, or there are several types of planning, and the one you choose is depends on the context the country is in at during the planning moment. So typically there are 3 main families of planning documents. The education sector plans, or what we call typically ESPs, which, for instance, the 5-year general education sector plan we saw last time is a typical example of that. So these are long-term plans, mostly developed by ministries of education, outlining the 5-year vision and then what the Ministry of Education is really aiming to do. So the document we saw is one good example of that. And in some contexts where countries are going through emergency situation, or they are not in a position to draft a long term, because the ESP can be from 5 years to 10 years. But in some cases, countries are going through a situation where they cannot project themselves for the long term. In those contexts, there is a possibility of drafting something called transitional education plans, which are very short term, meaning that it's 1 year to 3 years maximum. And the idea is to say, focusing on immediate response while waiting the government and the ministry to come back to a normal functioning. That's really from the development part of planning, these are the two main documents, either an ESP from 5 years to 10 years, or a transitional education plan, a TEP, from 1 year to 3 years. But in other contexts where there is acute emergencies, then we also have what we call MYRPs, so the multi-year response plan. These are new documents because they were brought about by ECW, and ECW was only created something like 10 years ago. ECW maybe dates back to 2016, 2017. ECW is, you probably know ECW because there is an MRP ongoing in Lebanon today. It's a special fund created a few years back, and it is housed within UNICEF, which is mandated for financing education in emergencies. So ECW is Education Cannot Wait. And what they do is that when a country faces an emergency situation, like hosting refugees or natural hazard like the earthquake, and they come in quickly and they provide relief and support in a quicker way, because the other two, the ESP and TEP, are long-term processes, so they take time to prepare, they take time to put in place, and they are not quick enough in emergency contexts. So the ECW came in with new modalities which can help in a few weeks or few months to be able to provide funding to countries where there is an emergency. So today, these are the three most used. Maybe there are others, but in education, these are the three most used planning documents and processes, where either you are in a normal functioning of the administration, and then in that case, it's a long-term plan, so ESP, 5 to 10 years, or you are in an intermediate situation. You cannot do a long-term plan, you just do 1 to 3 year plan, hoping that after that you then can draft a long-term one, or you are in a very urgent emergency situation where you need immediate support, and that's probably going to be an ESP. But in practice, and as has been the case for Lebanon, you can see that in some contexts you can have the different plans in parallel, because you have an ESP, so you have the general education sector. But at the same time, there is a situation that requires a MRP, and then there was an NRP at roughly the same time. It was a quick overview of those planning documents, and it helps to understand how they fit into each other and how they are different. Before moving to the next slide, any question on this? I assume some of you have been involved in at least the multi-year response plan by ECW.
Yeah, I think we did the evaluation of this MYR plan.
When was that?
1 or 2 months ago, we did the interviews to evaluate one of those plans.
Okay, interesting. So the report is not yet available of the evaluation?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. Do you know whether they are planning to do a new one or it's done?
Well, I have no idea.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. Any other comments? Okay, let's continue. So then practically, how do you do that? Before going into that, I would like to hear also from you whether you have been involved in the preparation of a sector plan or ESP, MRP, or the TEP, the preparation team. Or anyone who has experience drafting such a document?
Yes, of course. We did a small part of it related to the training, because we are the bureau who is responsible for the continuous training. So whenever we have a plan and we have a professional development in it, so CERD has the mandate to, if we didn't develop it, to review it and give our feedback on it. And now we are preparing as CERD the implementation plan for the curriculum. So it is I think a 3-year plan, let's say. And now we're drafting it.
Okay, interesting. So because sometimes actually how to say this? We don't know whether we should give more details on some aspect of the other. So feel free to tell us whether you are familiar already with some of these aspects so that we can move quickly on them without spending too much time. But here it is important maybe to spend some time discussing the problem tree, which is another tool which is fundamental when you are planning. So basically, I'm trying to situate this in our different the overall step-by-step approach. Sorry, I'm moving between slides. If you remember the overall framework when it comes to planning is this one. So you go from a situation analysis, as I mentioned. From that, you assess what are the problems and what are the causes. And then you move into choosing the policy priorities, saying that these are going to be the main policy objectives of our next 5-year or whatever period you are planning for. And then you convert that into programs, activities, and then a costed operation plan. So we are somewhere here. And one tool that is used to move from the problem to the solutions is what we call the problem tree analysis. Are you familiar with this tool?
So John, actually no, but when we define or when we prepare a plan, actually we define the indicators that should be achieved, and this is related definitely.
Oh, we lost Bilal.
I'm sorry. I said,
Can you repeat again?
when we prepare a plan, yes, we are doing something near to what you have said. Or so when we prepare a plan, we define the indicator that should be achieved, and those indicators are related to the objectives of the program that we are going to work on. So the indicators, when you define the indicators, you put the baseline of the indicators and what are the activities that should be implemented in order to achieve this indicator. So you are looking to the weaknesses in the sector, and you prepare a 5YP. You will say that if you want to increase the enrollment of the students into the public schools, you need to do this and this and this, to build schools, to enhance the capacity building for the teacher, the program, improve the curriculum, something like that. So you have to place the indicators and to see yes, the tool that we are going to talk about it in Unit 4, the monitoring and evaluation. This will track the improvement of and the achievement of those indicators.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very practical way of approaching this. From what I understand, it looks like you go straight into drafting a result framework and the logical framework, right?
Yes, right.
Yes, where you outline, so these are the objectives, these are the targets, like the indicators, and then from there, these are the activities we're going to be implementing to achieve the set targets. And then you can cost them and eventually then go into implementation, right?
Yes, right, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's very good. We will come back to this logical framework in a few minutes, but I would like to hear from the other colleagues whether, because what we're going to be looking at now is this problem tree analysis, which is an intermediary step between a situation analysis and the log frame. It just helps you better assess the root causes of what you are trying to address, and then quickly link those root causes to solutions. We can use an example, and then we'll of course go to this log framework, which is the main tool for planners and budget officers. But really, for the other colleagues, let us know whether you are familiar with this. Otherwise, we will not spend too much time on it. But basically, trying to go back to the slides where I was. So typically, a log frame, sorry, not a log frame. The problem tree is a tool. For instance, this is an example. This is an example where the problem that is trying to, so we assume, for instance, that from the situation analysis, we have identified that there are few and poorly trained students graduate from primary school, meaning that at the end of primary school, we have a problem of access. So there's in completion, fewer and fewer children are completing primary school. And also those who are completing primary schools, they are not learning a lot. So learning achievement from a random country. And then if you want to, if as part of your new plan, you'd like to respond to this question, how do you come up with, first, how do you make sure that you have a good understanding of the, oops, looks like, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's cutting off. Can you try again?
I think he lost connection.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now
Yes,
yes.
we can
Sorry.
hear you.
It looks like my internet is having. Sorry. So I'll start again. I hope it doesn't happen again. So I was trying to explain what is the usefulness of this problem tree analysis tool. In French, for those colleagues who are familiar with French, we call it arbre à problème, because there is also a solution tree. So the idea actually is that you move from the problem tree to a solution tree. And the solution tree is another version of a log frame or a result framework. So we're going to look at that in a few minutes. So the problem tree, again, is a tool that helps you better understand the causes and consequences of the problem you're trying to assess. The example here we provide is that in a random country faced with access, completion, and poor learning achievement in primary education, they were trying to understand why. So the typical problem tree is that you put the problem in the middle. So this is the problem, like we call it the focal problem, because you can have many problems. And when you have many problems, which is the usual case, you're going to conduct several problem trees analysis. So you only have one problem tree analysis for one focal problem. So that you really focus on that. So the typical way of doing that is that you put that in the middle and then you start discussing what are the causes. So what are the causes? And the idea is that you need to have also layers of causes. For instance, in this case, they mentioned that, so we have fewer children completing primary education and they are not learning a lot. Why? Because we have inadequate facilities. So this is, we don't have enough schools. Even those schools we have, they are not of good quality. We also have inadequate curriculum and teaching materials. We also have poor teaching practices and then poor management practices. So this is a typical education system where fewer children are going to school and those who are going to school are not learning. So you try to understand why, then you come up with this first level of causes. But as you can see, each cause can be also disaggregated into sub-causes. So because you ask yourself, why do we have inadequate facilities? Then you can say, oh, we have inadequate facilities because there is long distance from school to family. So there is no enough network of schools. So children can need to walk long distances to be able to go to school. Of course, this is not this example. It's not specifically Lebanon. And then why do we have long distances? Is because we have insufficient, for instance, boarding schools for girls. So it's an example. What we need to understand here is that you have a first level of causes, and then each cause can be broken down into smaller causes. The idea here is that you need to have a good understanding of the problem, what are the main causes, and then from that, it will be much easier for you to design the solutions and eventually move that into a program and costed operational plan, as we're going to see. And along the problem, also, you need to understand what are the effects being the consequences of the problem. In this case, the effects are that because we have few and poorly trained students graduating from primary school, the transition rate to secondary school is low. So that's the first consequence or effect. We have also low graduation rate from secondary school. And also we have a low proportion of girls in secondary school. So this is an example. The idea being that you need to understand the causes. So this is this part, and then you need to understand the effects. Because when it comes to translating these into a solution tree, you have to come up with interventions that are going to address the causes, because to be able to act on this problem, you need to act on the causes. And then this is going to be also your targets, your objectives. So I'm going to, for instance, I'm trying to rephrase these. The statement will go as this. I'm going to be improving inadequate facility. I'm going to be improving learning facilities, curriculum, and the teaching practice, so that I can improve completion and quality of education, and eventually act on transition to secondary education and access for girls, something like that. Planning wise, this is an important tool to know how to use, because it really helps you move from the problems, understand the problems, and assess them using a tool like this problem tree analysis, and easily design a program that is going to help you respond to your challenges. You might be also familiar with other tools very close to this one. We call it a theory of change, TOC, which is exactly the same thing as the problem tree and the solution tree. Any question, feedback so far?
No, really interesting. Actually, John, يعني all the clauses could be reflected and translated into two activities in the plan. يعني here we are talking about like the long distance from school. So we can define like an activity related to the purchase or provision of like buses. يعني this is very interesting. Yani. So you have to develop like an activity that addresses those clauses in order to achieve the objectives or the indicators of the plan.
Thank you. This is very important, because most of the time, actually, when we discuss with ministries of education and ministries of finance, trying to understand why ministries of finance are not allocating enough budget for education, ministries of finance, they tell us that education officers, they have difficulties arguing why they need more budget. And this is one way of actually of making a case for requesting more budget, is that you come up with a good analysis of the problems, and then a good analysis of how you are trying to respond to those problems. And this is something that can help you make a case. because you can easily make more show and argue to ministries of finance and other donors eventually if you are interacting with donors, so that we have a good understanding of the problems. And this is how we are designing our solution and using such tools and a narrative, because this can be accompanied by a small narrative analysis, explaining this in simple words, and it will make your case for investment and budget allocation much stronger vis-a-vis donors or ministries of finance. There is something we did not cover in this training, but you could look into this online, or we can try to see whether we can share a reference, is the 5W way. It is the exact same thing, because when you're trying to come up with the causes, understand the causes, it is recommended that you ask yourself 5 why. So this the 5 why. So the first why is this level. So why? So the why the first time, for instance, why do we have poor management practices? So that's the first why. Second why is this one. So the first why is that we have poor management practices. Why do we have poor management practices? Is that we have poor training of managers. That's an example. You can see that you can go up to 5 whys. So why do we have poor training managers? Maybe we have not been recruiting enough trained staff. That's an example I'm making up. It could be also that we don't have a dedicated training for managers. That is the case in many countries, where there is only training institute for teachers, but not for managers. And we need both, actually, because you also need professional managers for education systems, head teachers, managers at different level of the administration. And in most cases, we don't have specific training units for that, etc. So it is recommended that you go through at least 2 layers of whys, and eventually 3, 4, 5. It is not recommended to go beyond 5, because otherwise it becomes difficult to master. But already 2 layers of why are okay. 3 layers are even better. At some point, when you think that you have enough information to understand your issue, then you can stop there and eventually move from that to designing then the solution. Feel free to react if you have questions or feedback on that. So we have a practice activity. I think we can use our last few minutes to discuss this. We are around. I think no need. We were at some point we thought we could do a breakout session, but no need since we're not that many. So the problem would like to do that with you after reviewing how to construct a problem tree and examining the example presented earlier. You are now asked to build your own problem tree, starting from the problem of your choice. So the idea is that feel free to suggest a problem tree you'd like to analyze with us, and we can spend the next 30 minutes discussing that. So the idea that we come up with a random problem, but you can use your current experiences to suggest a problem, and then we can work with you to assess that and fill out these the matrix we have in the next slide. So the idea is to identify a focal problem, then discuss the causes, and then the effects, similar to what we just saw. Who wants to go first, suggesting a problem to analyze? We have an empty template to use, so we need to define the focal problem, and then we can discuss the causes and the effects. Over to you, colleagues.
If you want, we can talk about the ICT or the information technology at the Ministry of Education. So I'm not a technical person, but if you want, we can talk about this, or it's beyond our. So we cannot. We can have another idea.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's do it.
Are you okay with that?
لا أنت بتساعديني شوي. You know, because I have heard, because I was in like meetings related to the IT, and now here, because we need the digitalization, you know, John, and what is needed in order to improve the infrastructure of the ICT at Mehi. So maybe we can say the effects here. There are like a poor software, not poor. There is a weakness. We have today like the SIMS, School Information Management System, and it needs to be improved a bit and to be shifted to another software in order to meet or to cater all the need for the Ministry of Education.
Sorry, can we start by defining the problem?
So the problem, and this is an example, this is not really reflects the ministry, okay? This is an example. Let's say, and we have like the SIMS, now we have a software which is related to the schools, in order you get all the information from the school. There is a software called SIMS, like a School Information Management System.
So let's say the problem is to have an efficient and effective system to شو بيقولوا data تنلم
Manage
الداتا
data or collect
And
data.
online,
to
because this
collect
is
and
not
manage
online.
data.
Yes, true. And this is not منه online, هو منه it should be improved in order.
semi online هيدا.
Yeah, صح.
Is this okay for
Omar.
you as a problem? Because we need to frame it as a problem, and then later on we can propose solutions. So if I understood well, we can say the Mehi, let's say Mehi has a weak information system,
Well,
which
yes.
does not facilitate data availability and utilization for decision making.
And
Is this
this is
okay?
fine for the topic? Yes,
Okay.
this is fine.
So then we need first to discuss what are the at least the first layer of causes. Why do we have such a weak information system?
Anyone of you colleagues wants to interfere? So one of the effects or one of the problems, Jean, is
Sorry, yes, we can
this is
also start by the effects.
okay. Yeah, effects before. Yeah,
so
sure.
can we or can we write the problem? Sorry, I was on the phone, but can we write the problem? We have a weak data, and then one of the challenges is the system. We need a system more rigid, or we need trained people on the ground to do the data
True.
مش collection يفوتوا الداتا data entry
data entry.
Yeah.
Entering the data into the system. That's true, and we are facing a big problem on
But
this.
it's a general problem, and not we have to do a financial problem or.
Oh, we lost him.
We lost Omar.
Sorry, I speak يعني هيدا يعني مشروع عفوا مشكلة، بس مش مشكلة كلها مالية. احنا بدنا نختار مشكلة مالية ولا
لا، هي مشكلة تقنية، بس بحاجة لميل انت لانك تقدر تأمن تدريب للسيمز اوبريتورز let's say، انه هي منا مالية، تقنية، بس بحاجة لمصاري انها لتعمل تدريب، لتجيب سوفت وير احسن وهيك. you need to secure funds in order to prepare a plan.
اوكي.
اصلا المشاكل انت بتعرفها كمان
Yes.
اللي بالسيمز. So John, here we have like we have to, let's say the goals. One of the goals we have to enhance the capacity of the SIMS operator. The SIM operator is a technical person at the school that is authorized or his responsibility is to enter or record the information of the school into this software.
Okay, So yes, that's very true. But here we are trying first to understand why do we have such a situation. Some of your interventions are already providing solutions, which is okay, but that is going to come in the next phase. Now we just want to understand why do we have this situation. And for me, from what I understood, we can say we can call it adequate weak capacities. Weak capacities. Maybe we can call it HR capacities at school level. From what you just said, is this okay? Is this true that we don't have enough trained people to use the system?
At the school, yeah.
But can we say that at the central MEHE level, capacities are enough, both in numbers and expertise?
Yes, we have an IT unit here at the Ministry of Education, but you know, because the origin, the main problem of this this software comes from the school, because the owner of the SIMs is related to the school itself. يعني. The owner is the principal of the school. If the data are not recorded properly,
we have also a problem with the SIMS. The source code is not all developed by the IT department. Each editing need to go to some
to the firm,
yes.
to the supplier or the firm.
Yes.
Is the supplier at least based in Lebanon?
Yes, in Lebanon.
Okay.
But as Omar said, because the developers here at MEHE didn't develop this software, you know, it was developed by a firm, independent firm. And if you want to add anything or any information or to edit any information, you have to return back to this firm. Because actually MEHE has the source code, but it cannot edit any information if you don't go back to the firm.
So I can say over reliance on external firm for maintenance.
And this is the weakness at MEHE, related to MEHE itself.
Okay. So this is also a typical issue we have, but for me, well, it's an lesser issue because, of course, we would like to have MEHE have IT officials who can manage part of it, but if you also manage to have a good contract with the company, if it is based in Lebanon, because it is a very big problem if the company is based outside, then you have zero access to them, etc. But if they are based in Lebanon, etc., you can have a maintenance contract that will help you count on them. So the making sure that you know what you're looking for, etc. And that could be part of the solution. But eventually also what we've seen in the other countries is the government wide, because it's difficult for one ministry to have a strong IT team because you cannot afford to have a big permanent IT team, because in big part of the year maybe they don't have anything to do. But some of what we see as good practices in other countries that at the government level they put in place a big IT team supporting all the ministries on everything related to information systems. But maybe that's a long-term solution. Meanwhile, working with local companies and making sure that they have you put together a strong contract is maybe one quick way to address this. So maybe let's come back to our exercise. So we have weak technical capacities at school level for entering data. And then we also over-reliance on external companies for maintenance. And we don't need to come up with many other causes. We can stop here. But I was wondering whether also this is something we see in many countries, whether the MEHE allocates enough budget for information system and data collection. Because in most countries, they rely also on donor funding. There is no government budget for such activities. What is the situation at Mehe in terms of funding?
Here the funding comes from the international donors, actually.
Okay. That also might be a problem, yes, because data collection and utilization is really a matter of also national sovereignty, and this is something you need to be able to fund yourself. Of course, in normal conditions, relying on donor funding is that when they cut their funding, because they can cut funding when they want, and you won't be able to run your information system. So among salaries and the core functioning of the administration, information system is also something that comes next to that.
Yeah, at least
Maybe
the maintenance for the software should be secured from the government contribution for the long run. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we can say that the information system is mostly funded by donors.
Yeah.
So that's very good. So in the second stage, we don't need to go far, but if we were doing this in reality, of course, we need to make sure that we have listed all the possible causes, right? Because you don't want maybe to miss out some important causes. But typically, from what I heard, we have technical issues at school level. People who are supposed to enter data, they do not know how to do it correctly. Over-reliance at Mehe level on external support companies, and also in terms of funding, also the information system is mostly funded by donors, which also may create some issues in terms of sustainability. And so if we were doing this in practice, so we will need to go a step further. For instance, saying that, why do we have such weak technical capacities at school level? Did we ever train them to do so? Do they have the right IT equipment, etc.? Can we try to come up with another explanation of why do we have such weak technical capacities at school level for data entry? Anyone?
Yes, sorry. First, we need to have those capacities. So a few schools, I'm not sure if all schools have the IT person to enter these data.
At school level, who is the person who is expected to do
the IT?
IT? So does that mean that each school needs to have an IT person?
Yeah, sure. If we need to enter all the school students and school staff and all the data, the everything.
That's a possible cause and eventually solution, but I'm trying to see, because you can see, okay, here we're talking about schools, but we're talking from pre-primary to maybe, let's say, higher school, higher secondary. So for some of this, maybe secondary education, I don't know if we are also involving higher education, but for higher education, maybe secondary education, it might make sense to have a permanent IT person. But as you can see, maybe for primary school or for KG, I don't know if it would be justifiable to ask that we have one IT person per school, because probably going to be too expensive, if you see what I mean. So eventually, I'm trying to see this from our many other countries where we work, is that because data entry is not like a full-time job. Data entry, in most cases, is something you do once in a while. And what is recommended is that you train the head teacher or school principal and maybe a couple of teachers, so that in addition to their other activities, they can also do this data entry. Does that make sense in the context of Lebanon?
So actually, John, here in Lebanon, we have this position established starting 2016, not before. Because since then, actually, we have to operate the SIMS. The SIMS, this is what I told you. This is their, in order to get all the information from the school and to do the analysis and the payments here at the ministry, you have to retrieve and extract the information from SIMS. And there should be a person like an IT, and it's called the SIMS operator at each school. Today, we have here in Lebanon 1,200, approximately 36 schools. Out of them, we have 1,100 SIMS operators. Because some of the SIMS operators or the IT guys are working in like more than one schools, because it depends on the number of the students on each school. But we have really, but the problem here, most of the SIMS, not most, but some of the SIMS operators are not qualified or not have a degree, a bachelor degree from a university. They are technical person, and some of them are not selected according to a defined criteria. And this is what I am telling you. This is the correct information, because actually we visited some of the schools, and in order to see what are the reasons behind not entering the data in a proper way, or on timely basis. So some of those are selected like the principal knows his nephew, or his nephew or his relative, and put it in this position. And some of the IT guys who are qualified leave their positions in the schools because they got a position in in other places for a better salary. So here maybe at least we can improve the capacity, the selection or process of those staff should be well defined according to a set of criteria. And that's all. That's all. This is the main problem we are facing.
Okay, that's interesting. So in terms of the second level problem, can we say that the selection process of IT staff at school level is not fair or strong? So we do not select the best ones.
If you want to say it's not strong, yeah.
So we end up with IT staff who are not really the best ones to do that, because they were not selected based on merit.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Really, this is for the purpose of the practice, but as you can see, and this is something you're going to be doing soon, actually, because we know that there is a planning process that is starting soon, already started, and this is exactly what you're going to be going through, understanding the challenges and then designing solutions based on the challenges. So using this tool, and of course many others, is something that will strengthen in many ways the document and the case for investing in education. What about the over-reliance on external firm? Do you know whether there was a contract for, in French we call it service après-vente, after the software has been developed by the firm? Do we know whether there was like a 2-3 year contract with the firm to continue providing support and maintenance, or it was not done? because sometimes we forget actually that software does not end at software development. Do you know why we have such reliance?
Rania, do you want to say something before I talk? Before, so actually, we relied on a firm, on an external firm, due to the fact we do not have enough developers at the IT department here. So, but we relied on a firm like 8 years ago because SIMS was purchased according to a procurement process actually, and there was a firm that won the bid, and they established the SIMS, School Information Management System. But for the time being, we see that this software is not working, and it is not upgraded according to, to the new technicalities, and but it should be upgraded in all cases. So here we can say that we do not need to rely for another time on a firm. We can like hire developers at Mehi in order to establish or to upgrade this software or to shift the software to another one, but in-house, to build this software in-house. So this is like a solution, and in order to achieve the solution, you have to secure like some developers, that the funding for acquiring some developers and to build the software in-house.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. So I think that's good enough. What about the reliance on donor funding? Why do we have such a situation?
And because as a civil servant, we do not have like technical person have IT, have graduated in IT like within the civil servant staff at Mehi, we have like 17,000 civil servants between teachers and administrative, but you will barely find some staff have like an IT degree, That's why you have to hire consultants, and the consultants should be funded by the donors, because the government contribution or the government budget do not fund or pay for consultants.
Okay, interesting.
But for the long run, yes, you have in all cases when you are talking about the projects or you implement the projects, you have to shift or to deliver the information from the consultants to the civil servant staff. This is in the long run. To transfer the knowledge, yeah.
So another way of looking at this, actually, because this is one step of identifying the problems, and the next step is identifying the solutions. So also when analyzing or identifying the root causes, you need to be able to ask yourself, if I address these root causes, am I going to address the problem? So that's one way actually of validating your assumptions, because easily, for instance, I'll ask myself a question here. So here we say that we don't have enough developers. So does that mean if we were to recruit enough developers, they will be able to develop in-house solutions, and then we don't have any reliance anymore on external companies, and eventually that will help us improve our information systems? Do you see the chain of logic here?
Yes.
And this is logic. Exactly. That's what you do in a theory of change, meaning that's what we do in the next discussions, where then we try to come up with solutions. The same thing here. If we manage to convince the government and Mehi to allocate enough resources for information system, then we don't have any more reliance on donors, and then we can eventually have a sustainable information system, etc. Same here. If we focus on selecting the best IT staff at school level, they will be entering data in a better way, and then it can improve the data quality and availability overall. So this is typically the way it is done. Of course, in practice, you have to go through all the causes, because maybe there might be other important causes. You just need to stop here. You need to go there, and then it is done. It is recommended that you do this in a collective way, meaning that you put together a group of experts from different teams within the ministry, because everyone will bring their perspective, and it will help understand better and have a shared understanding of the problem and the solutions. So meaning that if myself alone in my department, I come up with such an analysis, it's probably going to be fought against. People will not accept it, other colleagues, because they were not part of the discussions. So you need to bring different colleagues together to agree what are the problems, and then how can we design together a solution. Otherwise, it might be the best solution you're coming up with, but if you did it alone, it's probably not going to be implemented, but because people will be against it because they were not involved. So it's really also a collaborative process. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense. And
So-
John, I want to say something here, please, to take something into
Sure.
consideration. Today, for the time being, the government is not funding the information system at MEHI, but maybe, as Wissam told you last time, so when we are shifting to the program budget, from operational budget to program budget, from funded by the government, so you can allocate the funds to the information system as long as you are setting the objectives and the indicators. You can secure funds from the general budget.
So come again, I didn't get it.
No, here you put the government does not allocate sufficient fund. This is true for the time being. But Wissam told you last time, Wissam Amalim told you, when we shift, we are now shifting from the operational budget to the program budget. We are talking about the government budget, not from the donors.
Yes.
Here, when you prepare a program budget, I think you can allocate or secure funds from the government contribution.
Definitely, yes. So yeah, that's true. But we are assessing the when you are doing this assessment, you do that at a specific moment. So we can say that today, as of today, the government is not providing resources, but in the solutions, when we go up to solution design, then of course what we're going to say is that as part of the government efforts for a program-based budgeting, we need to make sure that there is enough allocation for information system development and maintenance, right?
I'm really sorry, Jean, because I didn't hear you well. Please.
Yeah, I was saying that when you conduct this kind of analysis, you do that at a specific moment. So you are using, for instance, we are saying that to date, the MEHI and the government of Lebanon are not investing in IT, information system maintenance development. But that's the problem today. But the solution then is we're going to be recommending that as part of the new program-based budgeting, there is enough allocation for this activity. So that will come when it comes to defining the solution, sorry. And then you can see actually that by acting on this budget issue, you can also act on this one, because the recruiting IT developers is of course going to be requiring a lot of money. You see?
Yeah.
So this is probably a solution that will help this one, but also here. Maybe we have 5 minutes left. Again, in a typical setting, we have also to identify the effects, but I think you've already mentioned them. When you don't have a performing information system, you don't have data on time, you don't have quality data, they are partial, etc. And then, of course, they do not help with decision making. I don't know whether you had other effects or consequences you'd like to bring forward.
When we talk about the effects, we are talking about the goals.
It's really the consequences of not having a good information system. What are
Okay.
the consequences, or how the different teams are suffering from this? So for me, basically, I'll say that weak quality data and not timely. I'm making this up.
Yeah.
Because actually, when it comes to budget allocation, budget implementation, monitoring, you really need timely data. Reporting for donors, you need timely data. And then when you don't have a performing system, then of course you're going to be having issues every time you need information.
Yes, this is very accurate.
And budget-wise also, it does not facilitate budget allocation, because if you want to improve budget allocation, you need to be able to say what type of schools I'm talking about, which schools need special attention, etc., etc. So it does not have of budget allocation. It's not different from the decision making, but it's a bit more specific to budget. Okay, so typically that's what you do in a problem tree analysis. And what is clear is that once you've done this, it's very easy then to move from this to a logical framework, the program you're designing, because easily you're going to be converting. So this will be your objective. So assume we are designing the next sector plan, within which we're going to have a program on information system and data use. So we're going to have that as one objective: improve information system for better data and timely data, for instance. And then once you've done that, then your main causes are then going to become the outputs. So you need to be to work on these 3 levels as outputs. And then the other layers of causes, then they're going to be activities. So we will see that in our next session. But again, insisting on this, it is very important to know how to use this, because once it is done, you easily move from this to your objectives, outputs, activities, and goals pretty easily. And this is even more important as you move into the program-based budgeting, because you're going to be using this tool every day. Because for designing your program, this is exactly what you're going to be doing. You will be organizing your budget into a number of programs. And programs, actually, they are meant to be the exact same as your priority programs in the sector plan or wherever strategic document you're going to have. And then instead of allocating initially budget on staff, goods and services, etc., budget allocation is going to be done at the level of the program. Since, for instance, you can call this a program, the outputs, and then activities. So this is how the budget, your new budget, should be organized. So you have like 4 or 5 programs, and then each program will have components or subcomponents. So these are the activities and the output, sorry. And then we're going to have activities. So activities, for instance, in this case, going to be hiring competent IT staff at school level. This is hiring and training sufficient IT developers at MEHE. In this case, ensure that MEHE and the government allocate enough funding for information system, and then you can have sub-activities over there. So typically, this is the usual way of doing that, and I hope that it is clear for you. I would recommend that you really go to the reader and continue this practice, and then you have more examples in the reader. And when we meet next time, we're going to see then how do you move from this to then designing the solution, which is the exact same thing actually you've been doing, because I saw that it is more familiar for you to just go directly to the solution building, the log frame and the solution tree.
Great. We have a session on Monday, Tuesday. I'm sorry, Tuesday, next Tuesday.
So we have, sorry, we get back to you soon on that, but Hala and myself, we're going to be on a mission in Jordan next week. So Tuesday is going to be difficult, but we would like to meet again on Thursday next week and maybe do a longer session there. We will send a message in that sense, but we are trying to do as much as we can, but we will make sure that at least we have one session before the workshop, so that at least we can finalize all the theoretical fundamentals of module 3, and when we meet, we can quickly go into the practice.
Okay.
So we'll come back to you with the confirmation, but definitely not Tuesday, possibly Thursday next week.
Great.
But meanwhile, please continue reading and continue doing the practice.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.